It took Diane Keaton 34 years to tell this story. She was in love with Al Pacino, and Hollywood was crazy about it. But something more sinister was going on behind the cameras. Even though he was famous, she learned that he was deeply in debt. He was being used by the people around him. She did what she could to help him. She fought against his lawyers. She asked for better deals. At that point, everything stopped. She asked him to marry her in 1990. Their relationship ended because of what he said. What she's about to say will surprise fans who thought they knew their story. Diane Keaton didn't just grow up in a family. Dorothy Deanne Keaton, Diane's mother, wore a crown as Mrs. Highland Park in 1955, and Diane will always remember that picture. When she was 9, she saw her mother win and stand proudly on stage. It made her feel different. Dorothy herself grew up during the Great Depression because her father had left her when she was young. Because of this, she was set on giving her kids everything she never had. That dream wasn't just about love and care. It was written down. Dorothy kept 85 journals throughout her life and wrote about every news story, picture, and event in Diane's rise to fame. Diane found this mound of memories when her mother died in 2008 after a long battle with Alzheimer's. So well taken care of that they became the main part of her story. But then, her mom hadn't been in pageants to get famous. They were plays. They were telling stories. And they made Diane love acting for the rest of her life. Jack Newton Ignatius Hall, her father, was a civil engineer and real estate broker. He was a man shaped by his Irish background and his time in World War II. He worked hard to support his family. While he seemed calm, there was a quiet storm going on inside him. Near the end of his life, he turned to Diane and whispered things she would never forget as they drove home from UCLA Medical Center. He was dying of brain cancer. He said he had always disliked his job and wished he had been more daring. That confession broke her. The comment wasn't just a thought. It was all the sorrow you'll ever feel in one sentence. Diane was driven to do everything she could to follow her dreams. Jack felt like he was stuck in real estate, but Diane would later turn it into an artistic empire. She flipped homes in Southern California with style and freedom. What touched me the most was how his sadness became her drive. His sadness made her want to adopt her first child and welcomed a life full of risks, new beginnings, and changes. But it wasn't always easy for them to live in Los Angeles in the 1950s. Jack's real estate business was having a hard time, and money was running low. Diane learned to shop at thrift stores like Goodwill when she was a child. While other girls shopped at Buffum's, her mom would buy cheap used clothes and fix them up on her old McCall's sewing machine, making fashion out of scraps. There were no cute craft days with my mom and daughter. They were about getting by with the little they had. That event changed more than just Diane's sense of style. It made her strong. She learned that nothing stays the same when she moved from house to house. It was because of this that she was so good at playing weird, anxious characters that people loved. It wasn't just clothes that her mom made. It was a form of survival that looked like creativity. It also helped Diane become someone who wasn't afraid to walk into Hollywood because she was different. Diane didn't wait to become an adult before facing the world. She put on full shows for the neighbors in the garden when she was only 3 years old, wearing costumes that her mother helped her make. It wasn't just cute baby moments. Before she could read, she was putting on real plays. She was already very good by the time she got to Santa Ana High School. In A Streetcar Named Desire, she played Blanche Dubois, a part that most teens would be too scared to try. And something that will never be forgotten happened when she was a senior in 1963 and appeared in Little Mary Sunshine. The cheers were like thunder after her song. When she heard the crowd erupt, she was shocked, and that sound gave her strength. She learned for the first time that acting wasn't just for fun. It made her feel good. She felt alive after doing it. The name Diane Hall, on the other hand, almost never showed up on such a sign. It turned out that another actor had already taken her name when she tried to join the Actors Equity Association. She had to pick a new one because of that little change. Not just any old thing, she chose. She went with the name her mother used before she got married, Keaton. It was more than just a letter change. It was a nod to the woman who built the stage she was standing on without knowing it. Diane got rid of the Irish last name her father gave her from her public life. Not because they were rude, but because the name Keaton was already linked to shows, outfits, and dreams. Diane stood out in school's theater club, but being the most beautiful girl on stage was never the point. She knew she wasn't the typical pretty girl. She herself said it. As a girl, she went from being skinny and awkward to being a little overweight, and her clothes became her shield. anything that made her feel less anonymous, like white lipstick and black net stockings she wore. Not being sure of yourself turned into style. Years later, she would walk around Soho and copy the outfits of strong women she saw. This is how she created her famous wardrobe of baggy suits, big hats, and neutral colors. There wasn't much style in her clothes. It was to keep herself safe. In a strange way, it became one of the most famous looks in Hollywood. She even tried beauty pageants once, just like her mom. Diana, on the other hand, thought something was wrong. It didn't take her long to figure out that these contests were more about looks than skill. She did not want people to look at her smile or hips and judge her. Her family was shocked when she quit because she wanted to act. For the rest of her life, that was the first time she spoke out against someone in public. She would rather be herself than try to fit into a mold that didn't feel right. She had her first broken heart when she was 17. A tall, Golden high school basketball player had a crush on her, but he never saw her. It hurt the most when he made fun of her laugh. That laugh would become her trademark over time. But it felt like a curse at the time. She began to hide behind humor, telling jokes before anyone else could. She put up a wall of wit, and it worked. That breakup shaped the self-deprecating comic style that would become her trademark in movies. She turned anger into laughter and defeat into strength. Tony Roberts, one of her co-stars, once said, "She made you feel like a kid again, because she never pretended to be anything other than her weird, wonderful self." Then there was the big jump. She dropped out of Santa Ana College after one semester in 1964 and then tried Orange Coast College for a short time. She didn't want to go to college, though. She said she only went to see shows anyway. With no other choice, she chose to follow her dream and move to New York City. She saw a sign when her acting teacher told her about the neighborhood playhouse school of the theater. Her whole family got into a Ford van and went across the country to see it. She got in on a grant and started to learn the Meisner method. For a Californian girl from the middle class, it was a huge risk. She finally moved into a tiny one-room apartment on the west side of Manhattan. The toilet was in the hall, and the bathtub was in the kitchen. It didn't matter, though. She was in the right place. After leaving behind safety, comfort, and the norm, she walked right into the unknown. Diane Keaton got her first big break when she was only 22 years old. In 1968, she was chosen to be a substitute in the Broadway show Hair. The show was known for its wild and sexy scenes and acts that were almost naked. She was told to do something strange and painful before she even got on stage. The people in charge told her to drop 10 pounds. People thought she was too heavy for the part, especially in the sexier scenes. There was a lot of pressure. Most of the actors in Hair agreed to be naked in one short scene in Act 1, and they would get an extra $50 if they did. Diane refused. She said it didn't make sense to her, even though she wasn't required to be naked. That small act of defiance surprised the whole production team, but it also showed something rare. Diane stood up for what she believed in, even when most young actresses would do anything to get ahead. Diane heard another actress talk about throwing up food to stay slim around the same time in 1968. She started doing it too, thinking it was a secret trick. She thought she could eat as much as she wanted as long as she purged afterward. What began as a quick fix turned into a nightmare. She didn't know what it was called at the time. She didn't call it bulimia. She did it every day for 5 years in secret. From 1968 to 1973, she lost up to 20,000 calories a day. It hurt her body from the inside out. Her teeth were falling apart and she got 26 cavities. Her stomach hurt all the time. It was dangerously low, and her periods stopped coming on time. But she kept it a secret so no one knew. She only started to get better when she started going to therapy every day. She called it the talking cure. One day, she said she just didn't want to binge anymore, and that changed everything. In the meantime, her career was slowly taking off. In 1968, she tried out for a part in a Broadway play called Play It Again, Sam, which was written by Woody Allen. She almost lost the part because she was too tall. She was 2 inches bigger than Allen, standing at 5'8". The hiring team was on the fence, but it didn't matter when she walked on stage. Her skill helped her get through it. On February 12, 1969, the play began. There were 453 performances, ending on March 14, 1970. It was a quiet hit and ran for more than a year. She was nominated for a Tony Award in 1969 for her great performance as Linda Christie. Even though she didn't win, just being nominated gave her a boost. Something else started at the same time. How long and hard it was for her to be with Woody Allen. They did more together than just work together. They teamed up, and their names would be linked for decades to come. Then the chapter that no one saw coming came. Diane tried out for a movie role in 1971. She had no idea what it was. She didn't read the book. The book was new to her. She was only going to try out in the hopes of getting a job. It was The Godfather. She got the part of Kay even though she hadn't done any work on it. Adams. She got the part before anyone else. She saw his second performance in person before he became Al Pacino. She remembered how no one at first liked him. It took a while for the producers to decide, but he got the part. Francis Ford Coppola, the director, later talked about why he picked Diane. He had seen her in Hair because Fred Astaire had asked him to. Her voice was clear. It felt different to be around her. Other people didn't see what he saw in her. Diane had no idea what she was getting into when she went to see The Godfather. It changed her life forever. Diane didn't feel like she fit, even though she had a big part. The whole time she was scared. She wasn't close to Coppola, and she never made friends on set. Marlon Brando and James Caan were making jokes, but she didn't say anything. She said she felt like the strange one out there. She had doubts about everything. Why did she show up? She thought of herself as a comedic actress, and not someone who should be in a dark and serious mafia movie. She said she still didn't get why Coppola chose her, even after years had passed. When Diane and Al Pacino were making The Godfather Part 3 in 1990, something changed between them. Even though they had known each other since the first movie, they were now dating. Diane fell deeply in love with him. He was funny, charming, and full of energy for her. She said he was like a child who had been lost. They were together on and off for 16 years, ending around 1990. There were problems going on behind the scenes. Diane found out that Pacino had a lot of debt, even though he was famous. She was shocked. The people who worked for him took most of his money. Diane was very angry. She even yelled at his lawyer, calling him an idiot. She thought Pacino could do better. She wanted someone to really look after him. Their love story couldn't last forever, though. As they worked on The Godfather Part 3 in 1990, Diane gave Pacino a choice: get married to her or it's over. He decided not to get married. That was the end. The scariest thing is how much their last breakup in real life matched how they played each other on screen. In the movie, Kay approaches Michael and tells him, "You became my horror." Diane later said that she felt like that moment was real. She wasn't just pretending. She was telling the truth. In 1973, something that no one expected happened. Nicole Keaton walked into a futuristic comedy that no one saw coming, right after her part in The Godfather. It wasn't just a sci-fi parody. The movie was called Sleeper. It was a huge surprise hit. It only cost $2 million to make, but it made over $18 million, which is almost 10 times what it cost. But Keaton herself made it even more interesting. She was no longer the passionate Corleone daughter. Moon Schloer, a strange woman living in a strange world, was her new name. She was also funny. Genuinely, strangely, and jokingly funny. It wasn't just a show. It was a big change. People in the audience saw that she could be funny just as easily as she could cry. In those funny and sarcastic scenes, Diane Keaton was quietly creating the character that would change her life. In 1977, 4 years later, that change went off on TV. It wasn't a surprise hit this time. Everything changed when Annie Hall showed up. The part was written just for her by Woody Allen. The name came from something real. She was known as Annie. Her real last name was Hall. But this wasn't just another part. It was her. It wasn't fake the way she dressed, talked, or laughed at how awkward she was. It was just Diane Keaton being herself. Everyone fell in love with her because of it. The movie won a lot of awards, including Best Picture, Best Director, Best Screenplay, and for her, Best Actress. It did more than that, though. Suddenly, other women were trying to look like her. Loose ties, pants that are too big, and droopy hats. She made everyone in the country crazy about fashion without even trying. Men talked about her all the time. Not only did people respect her, she became famous. Something crazy took place that same year. People were still enjoying Annie Hall's charm when Keaton turned everything on its head. She played a part in Looking for Mr. Goodbar, which was different from anything else she had done. She played the part of Teresa Dunn, a school teacher who had a secret life and went out at night in New York. Real events sparked the story. In 1973, a man killed a teacher named Roseanne Quinn, who she had met at a bar. It was real and terrible, and it shocked everyone. People had different opinions about it. Some thought it was brave, but no one could ignore it. A Golden Globe nod was given to her, and even critics who didn't love the movie agreed on one thing: Keaton had guts. That year, she showed us two very different sides of herself. One made us laugh, the other one made us feel bad. Both of them were memorable. In 1978, she did it again. This time, though, the part wasn't what caught them off guard. It was in the voice. Inside wasn't funny. The mood wasn't lovely. In a sad way, it was quiet, serious, and human. Alan had made the choice to stop being funny, and Keaton joined him in this new world. She played Renata, an artist who was lost in her feelings. A broken family with lies and sadness was the subject of the story. The critics were split. Many liked it because it was Alan's first real drama. Some people didn't understand it, but Keaton could not be denied. And for both Interiors and Good Bar, she shared the Spanish Film Award for Best Foreign Performer. She was also nominated for another Golden Globe. That being said, she showed once more that she could do anything, no matter how light or dark, funny or fragile it was. The next year, in 1979, she walked into yet another storm of controversy. NYC was the name of the movie. In black and white, the city looked beautiful. The music was soft and dreamy, and then there was a twist. The 42-year-old man played by Woody Allen was seeing a 17-year-old girl. It was meant to be sweet, but it made people feel bad even back then. As time went on, the pain got worse. Even though there was a controversy, the movie made almost $40 million in North America and was one of Allen's biggest hits. In the end, the Library of Congress added it to the National Film Registry, saying that it was important for art and history. Once more, Keaton added a touch of class to the story. She even sang "It Had to Be You" as Mary, a skill she had learned in New York nightclubs when she was younger. However, none of that could take away from the story about the age gap, which kept getting stronger with each year that went by. A little while ago, she played Sonia in Love and Death, 1975, which was another Allen comedy set during the Napoleonic Wars. But this one was cool and weird. It was a parody of Russian books, and she talked about philosophy for a long time that wasn't even in the script. She made them up. After the fact, Allen said that her lines were so strange and funny that they threw him off while they were shooting. In one scene, Keaton and another actress quote European art films like Andrei Rublev and Persona while going on a crazy rant about wheat. It all seemed strange, but it worked in some way. A lot of fans still say it's Allen's funniest movie, mostly because of Keaton's weird and wonderful acting. Then there was the style. It wasn't made by the costume shop. It was in Keaton's closet when she walked onto the set of Annie Hall in 1977, wearing khakis, ties for men, and floppy hats that were too big on her. It didn't seem like it would become a trend, but Ralph Lauren later confirmed it. He didn't come up with any of it. She owned it. She got most of those clothes at Soho thrift stores after seeing stylish women on the street. The well-known hat was even made by the wife of a production artist on The Godfather. Women were told by Coco Chanel to take off clothes, but Diane Keaton told them to put on more clothes. This changed fashion forever. After many years, she and Allen got back together for no apparent reason in 1993. They never planned for her to be in the movie, which was called Manhattan Murder Mystery. Mia Farrow was supposed to play that part at first, but everything went wrong right before filming began. After Allen and Farrow's relationship ended in flames, shocking news came out about his relationship with Soon Yi, Farrow's adopted daughter. Keaton stepped in the middle of the media show. Allen and she hadn't worked together in over 10 years. There was a lot of pressure. We saw one of the dirtiest custody fights in Hollywood history on film. The movie still worked in some way. Keaton was up for Best Actress at the Golden Globes. It would be their last big movie together. Then 2018 came along. Things had changed. Now that the Me Too movement was bigger, people were finally willing to listen to stories of abuse and wrongdoing. Dylan Farrow, Allen's adopted daughter, said again that Allen had abused her, even though she had said this many years ago. Hollywood replied. Artists who had worked with him started to avoid each other. Some even gave his movie stars pay, but Keaton wasn't one of them. Her answer was direct. Allen was her friend, she said. She put up an interview from 1992 on video and told everyone to watch it. Then she said something that a lot of people couldn't forgive. When asked about the backlash, she said, "You gotta get over it." That one line set off a chain of events. She was called out. They said she wasn't helping the victims. She fought back. She was happy with the work she did with Allen. Even though her public picture was bad, the friendship stayed strong. The making of the movie Reds began in 1979. She was chosen to play Louise Bryant. The movie was being directed by her boyfriend in real life, Warren Beatty. What began as an interesting project quickly turned into a storm of feelings. People knew that Beatty was crazy about being perfect. He made Diane do the same things over and over. 70 or 80 times, some scenes were acted out. Paul Sorvino had to do the same shot 70 times. Maureen Stapleton finally yelled at Beatty and asked him if he was crazy. Diane was about to cry. Both work and the relationship put too much stress on me. Before the movie was even over, their relationship fell apart. Diane made a short movie called What Does Dorothy Want? In 1982, just a few years after that, she felt strong enough to try something bigger after this. So, in 1987, she made the documentary Heaven, which was about people who believe in the future. But the movie didn't do well. Some people didn't get it. People didn't care about it. It wasn't just a lost cause. She thought about how bad it was for decades. She said she hadn't been able to direct before, even when she tried again in 2000 with Hanging Up. In 1987, she said, "When your film fails, no one is waiting to hand you another one." At the same time, something strange happened. People loved Baby Boom when it came out. It showed a strong woman who was trying to raise a child and do her job at the same time. Diane played J.C. Wiett, a businessman who had to take care of a baby out of the blue. It had meaning for some people.